For years, Tim Allen has been one of America's favorite family men, a lovable goof with a heart of gold. But you might not expect that long before his fame, Tim spent time in a federal prison for drug charges. But while you may be familiar with Tim's run-in with the law, the story is a bit more complicated than you may think. So what's the real story behind Tim's time behind bars? How did he gain the strength to leave behind his life of sin and make an honest living? And why, decades into his career, did he find his shows being mysteriously canceled? Today we're digging into the secret history of Tim Allen. From his notorious struggle with the law to his alleged blacklisting, we're bringing you the truth with a side of sawdust. Before we begin, make sure to hit that thumbs up icon to show us some support. And subscribe to the channel so you never miss one of our videos. Now you ready? Well, strap on your tool belt, lace up your boots, and let's go find out.
What happened?
A young cowboy. From the very beginning, Tim's life was defined by unspeakable tragedy. So what happened to begin his path down the dark side? Well, he was born in Denver, and Tim was a well-adjusted, popular kid. He had two role models. One was his father, a kindly real estate agent and amateur mechanic. The other one was the TV, while Tim's dad taught him about the practical reality of life, how to use tools, how to treat people with respect. The television taught Tim about charisma, pizzazz, and excitement. Tim had a particular thing for cowboy shows, and it was because of their hard-drinking ways that he began drinking early. Seriously, at the tender age of 10. Well, everything changed when Tim turned 11. His father was hit by a drunk driver and killed. His mother promptly reconnected with her high school sweetheart and whisked the family off to Michigan to begin a new life. Now this time, Tim adjusted poorly. His father had been a good man. What was the point of playing along with society? So Tim began living his life as if he were acting. He learned how to tell people what they wanted to hear and then rob them blind. And Tim began drinking even more heavily. Without a father in his life, he was left only with the cowboys on TV. So Tim made himself a good outlaw. Tim Allen then went off to college, first at Central Michigan University and later at Western Michigan University. Here, Tim got even better at living a double life. While he played the role of a good student, delving into the world of TV and radio production, he also began sliding into the criminal underworld, slinging drugs and scamming people. Now, Tim Allen was in a sort of limbo here, stuck in between two lives, two Tims, and it seemed there was no limit to how low he could go. The arrest. So I'm sure you've heard some different rumors about Tim's famous arrest for drug possession in 1978. So what really happened? Well, Tim arranged a deal at an unlikely place, the airport. He proposed a dead drop. He would leave a full bag of cocaine in a locker and then give the key to a guy. The idea was all Tim's. He'd had it after seeing a similar technique on, television. Little did Tim know the fellow he was working with was an undercover officer who had been following him for quite some time. So Tim Allen was arrested at Kalamazoo Airport for possession of 1.43 pounds of cocaine. A harsh New Michigan law basically mandated a life sentence for anybody with a certain amount of drugs. And Tim met that threshold. So there was only one way out, and that was to be a rat. If he informed the cops on the other dealers, he could be tried in federal court and get a shorter sentence. He had a choice: go to prison for life or reject the criminal underworld and try to claw his way back into society. Tim Allen chose life and was sentenced to 3 to 7 years in federal prison. Prison time. Now Tim Allen doesn't talk about his time in federal prison too much, and yeah, I don't blame him. But something remarkable happened to Tim in the clink. Something that would change the course of his life forever. It took Tim 8 months to get used to prison, But there he learned two very important lessons. One, he learned how to shut up and follow orders. All his life, Tim had been used to creating his own reality, using other people to get what he wanted. Now that simply wasn't an option in prison. The second one was he learned how to be funny. While Tim had gone pretty deep down the rabbit hole, he wasn't exactly a hardened criminal. So there was only one way to survive: his humor. Tim quickly learned that he could make even the toughest prisoners and guards laugh. But survival is only that, survival. Tim still felt like there was no purpose in his life. That is, until he found something else: religion. The only way Tim was ever going to find meaning in his life was by putting his faith in a higher power. He wasn't strong enough to do it on his own. After all was said and done, Tim served 2 years and 4 months in prison. But his struggles didn't exactly end when he got out. The outside. After he got out of prison, it wasn't long until Tim was one of the most popular comic actors in the world. But despite his star power, Tim would find himself stymied, his values stifled, and his career sabotaged by mysterious forces. After the clink, Tim soon realized that there were only 2 things that really mattered to him. One was acting. Tim had a gift for dramatizing the banality of day-to-day life, making the ho-hum interesting and so funny. The other was his faith, which had motivated him to stop drinking, dealing drugs of course, and to raise a family. But while his acting made him a hot commodity, Tim found that society was unwilling to let him express his faith through his work. While he played a down-to-earth conservative on home improvement, the show didn't engage with his faith as much as he would have liked. The Santa Claus movies were about Christmas, and the first one is a Christmas classic. But they also didn't feature the Christian roots of the holiday at all. It wasn't until decades later that Tim finally got a chance to really showcase his values with his show Last Man Standing. In that one, Tim played a role loosely based on his own life, Mike Baxter, a conservative guy striving to maintain his manhood in a household full of liberal women. The show really was kind of a hit, and was the second most watched sitcom on the network. But then, against all odds, the show was suddenly canceled. Some people suspected that Tim's outspoken politics had brought down the axe, but Tim Allen was stunned and blindsided by the cancellation. ABC claimed scheduling conflicts, but many had good reason to doubt these assertions. Fortunately, Fox picked up the show for 3 more seasons, and Tim was able to fulfill his creative vision without outside meddling. But alas, Last Man Standing is no more, and so it's back to the drawing board for Tim Allen. So what is he doing now? Tim today. Tim Allen has now been sober for a quarter century, but these are troubling, uncertain times we live in. Has he been able to maintain his faith and sobriety in this demoralizing world? Well, he's sure been up to quite a bit lately. In 2022, he premiered a new show, More Power, on the History Channel. That was alongside his home improvement co-star Richard Karn. The subject, well, tools, of course. And if you've not seen it, it's a pretty great throwback to home improvement. Check it out. Also in 2022, he starred in the miniseries The Santa Clauses. In that show, Tim pushed to keep the religious roots of the holiday in the show, something that had been neglected in the Santa Claus movies. And he's also set to reprise his role as Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story 5. Let's just hope Tim is able to keep fighting the good fight, and that he has steady access to as many tools as he wants. Alright, that's enough of me, now we want to hear from you. What do you think? Was Tim's political orientation and his faith a factor in the axing of Last Man Standing at ABC? Are you looking forward to Toy Story 5? And finally, what is your favorite Tim Allen role? I'm gonna go with the first Santa Claus, but Galaxy Quest is also a hoot. Get in the comments and tell me all things Tim Allen and your favorite role of his. While you're there, tell us another actor who has a complicated past that we should cover next. Before you head to the exits, please click that thumbs up icon to show us some support. Subscribe to our channel, and come back often so we can keep telling you what happened.